But yeah, so definitely lots of different exercises. Actually, this morning I was trying to play tennis again after the first time in forever. It's just like, gosh, like it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of basically just sprinting, because you're like, okay, well, the ball is going to be over here, then it's going to be way over there, and I gotta just zoom back and forth. But uh, yeah, I mean, no, I get it. The whole weight gain thing as well. I mean, I'm not super worried about this particular time of year because again, I feel like things get kept in check even when I do go a little bit overboard, just by virtue of just being more active. I mean, it kind of does suck in our line of work being in, you know, software space. I mean, your job consists of sitting at a desk and staring all day. So it's very sedentary. And I have seen there are some desks you can get that are like basically very slow treadmills where you can be just walking while you're working all day. But I don't know if I could do that. Like I feel like that would be kind of really difficult to like focus then.
Yeah.
But I saw they were like a really big deal, especially during the whole pandemic stuff, because everyone was working from home. But yeah, 2020 actually also didn't help either with like the whole weight gain. That was definitely because you weren't allowed to go anywhere, you weren't allowed to go to the gym, you weren't allowed to do anything, and like everybody's working from home. This is whenever I was like, not to go on too much of a tangent, but I was like, gosh, I hate working at home because it's just depressing because I can't do anything. And I think that when you're talking about in the terms of health, um, not saying that you can't live a healthy life with a work from home job, but I feel like so much of the human experience is getting out and like you know having a routine that involves things outside of just your living space. Um, and if you don't have that, if you don't have a reason to really get up, then it just feels like you never really get out of bed if you just roll over into the other room and turn on a computer screen. Not saying you can't do that sometimes, but every single day, just it's bad for you. I feel like, at least I felt like it was bad. There's so many people who are like, oh no, I never want to stop working remote after the pandemic or whatever. But I'm just like, no, it made me feel really depressed, and then like I gained weight and I just felt bad.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely relate to that, especially like you were saying, everything was closed. There was nowhere to go. We were just stuck in our houses during 2020. So that definitely brought a lot of challenges with that for sure. So yeah, that was definitely, I guess for me, yeah, when it came with the treadmill, for some reason, yeah, started reaching a plateau. And at that point, when I tried again here in 2022, trying to use the treadmill, and I just realized, yeah, that has not been effective for me. It was effective for me back in 2020. I guess maybe my body wasn't used to the idea of getting on the treadmill, but this year when I tried my body said no. So I started having to try different activities, and there are a lot of fun activities out there that you can do that's good for your body. Like you were saying, even with hiking and even with swimming, I definitely love swimming. And just kind of especially during the summer, it definitely feels good when it's so hot outside, hot down here in Alabama, and getting in some water and just getting to swim. That's definitely a good time. And then even doing other fun little activities. It's been a while since I've done tennis, and I definitely can relate as far as that sprinting, because it definitely, from what I remember, it's been a few years since I've done tennis, but going yeah back and forth because you got to keep up with the ball, and you know how fast they hit it back to you. So it's like, oh crap. So there's that for sure. So yeah, it's definitely been definitely a struggle still even to this day, trying to find, especially during the cold weather, trying to find good exercises to do. I guess like going to the gym definitely is, that's where it becomes useful, going to the gym, doing things indoors. Or even doing things like ice skating is fun. I like ice skating every now and then, or even roller skating. That definitely can be some exercising for sure, but sometimes I'll end up like I end up having like sore legs and all that, but but I guess as long as you don't overdo it. So yeah, that is definitely a big part is definitely not overdoing it too. So that definitely has been something I've struggled with when it comes to exercising is being careful with that. But as far as like food goes, I've been trying to incorporate a little bit more things that are good for you. Like I've been trying to incorporate, even though I mean I know there's pros and cons to fruits, like, but there are some fruits that are like good for the heart, and there's some that are good for the brain and all of that. Like there's different berries that are good for you, and I mean there's some cons to the berries as well, but there's definitely a lot of good to it too. Like I've heard with like strawberries, I'm not sure if it's true, but I've heard that it's good for the heart, and it may be good for other parts of the body as well, or even like blueberries could be good for the brain, and there's different like even vegetables of course too, so trying to incorporate a little bit more of I guess green food, I guess what they want to consider into my diet.
Yeah, that reminds me. So when I first went to the dietitian, I was actually referred from my GI specialist because, I've had GI problems my whole life, which we go into more in the sick segment when we get there. But um, so I had I had been referred because my a lot of my GI issues had kind of calmed down with medication and just being overall better health. But they had referred me to another clinic at UAB for weight loss management, which apparently, whenever you're going to the doctor for weight loss management, the implication is typically that you haven't already lost the weight and are trying to, continue living a healthy life or better yourself from where you're at. The implication is usually you're borderline needing bariatric surgery and you are morbidly obese. Um, so, going in there and saying, "Hey, I've already lost 60 pounds. I'd like to lose some more." You kind of get this general run of the mill, like, "Oh, well, here's some foods you can eat. Haha, here's a calorie deficit, I guess." Um, so that was kind of my first, reintroduction into there, but reintroduction to eating, I should say, because with Optavia, you really don't have to think about what you eat. You have very limited options. And then you have like your one meal that you can make. Um, or some few things that oh, that qualify, um, like from fast food stuff like that. But it's a very limited list, and like the master list they send you is also like super outdated. Uh, but anyway, like so that was my first like reintroduction to okay, here's food again. And so I didn't really learn much. And it's just, they give you these lists for all these different foods that are healthy that like here's a healthy fat, and here's a measurement of it, and here's the recommended dosage of certain fruits and vegetables. You want to get your fiber in, but make sure that you do it with fruits and vegetables, et cetera, et cetera. Here's some protein shakes if you want to have a meal replacement, and that was just kind of a big thing. But when I returned the second time and I told them, a little more focused, like, okay, well, I got assigned to a different dietitian altogether who was a little bit more understanding of like the just holistic fitness aspect of things, training, weight training especially. And he actually wrote a whole routine for me. But then he said specifically one of the most important things was, what I'm sure you've heard people refer to as macros, um, where it may not be so much the specific foods that you're eating, but you want to get to a certain goal each day of certain macronutrients, aka, like he actually went and said, okay, well, you need to get so many of your daily intake. So much of a percentage needs to be protein. So much of your percentage needs to be carbohydrates, and so much needs to be, fats. And the key was that the grams of fat was considerably lower than the other two. But that being said, you can't completely cut fat out of your diet. This is where it's kind of difficult because you look at some diets like ketosis. like with those three macros, it's like completely different. Like you need virtually no carbs, and then you need very high protein and very high fat because fat is what gets turned quickly into energy. You're training your body to say, hey, I am taking in fat as energy and I'm storing nothing. And every time that, and it's going to become this incredible digesting machine that is so good at digesting fat for energy. It's going to start digesting the fat that you already have. And honestly, it's a better energy source and you feel more active when you're in ketosis and more just alive and it's great. The problem is that getting your body to that point, getting into ketosis is really difficult because you have to first starve yourself of all of your carbs that are available because the body will first go to quick, easy to store, easy to process carbs. And then after those are gone and done and depleted, then it goes to what's called glycogen, which is, uh, I guess I think it's like a type of like sugar. It's like a type of blood sugar, basically. And then once you're done past that, then your body starts going into basically starving mode. It's like, hey, I don't have any energy left. And it has to wake itself up and say, I'm now in survival mode. So I'm going to switch to my reserves. And that's the key to ketosis. That is if you can get that working for you consistently and you can stay in that, then you'll be that kind of hunter gatherer kind of body. You're not going to be easily, readily storing things, but you have to stay in it because it really sucks if you get kicked out of ketosis. Because the same thing happened with Optavia. They said it was a light ketosis, but they call it fat burn. Same thing. Um, Basically, you're stuck. Um, you're trying to get your body as this well-oiled machine of just digesting all those fats instead of those carbs. But like right now, what I'm doing since I'm focusing on building rather than burning, and I'm focused on building muscle, those macros have changed. Uh, Now I need more carbs than anything, but I also really, really, really need to get a only I need carbs, but I also need a very high intake of protein still. So high protein, even higher carbs by just a little bit, and then just low fat. So this way, my body can take in all of this because it needs even more fuel than uh than it just did when I was just losing weight. Because if you're trying to build muscle, if you're, tearing your muscles apart, because that's what you're doing in your workout, you're tearing your muscles and you're letting them build back up again stronger, as needed, basically. And the more you up your weight, you up your resistance, you up your workout, um, you are effectively telling your body, okay, I need this much more. I need this much more. And your body will adapt. But in order for it to do that, you have to have a lot to build with. You need your protein. Because if you try to do all that stuff and then you still try to do something like a ketosis diet or you do something that's just depriving yourself of those resources, you could actually really hurt yourself because then your body is going to try as hard as it can to eat what it can, and it will eat the muscle that it's supposed to be building. And then you'll just end up hurting yourself because you'll just be fatigued and too weak to do anything that you need to do. So protein, protein, protein has been a big thing. Sometimes I don't get enough carbs, but I haven't had like a major depletion of energy or anything like that yet. Um, but yeah, so macros are really important. I mean, and that's also different for everyone's goals because some people will still do muscle training, but they won't necessarily be looking to bulk up or to really build muscle for the sake of strength. They're looking to just tone their body as existing and still like lose weight. So for people with that goal in mind, they'll typically whatever you're wanting to focus on more is what you do first in your workout. So like since I'm wanting to focus on actually building muscle, because again, just having muscle burns calories. It's great. It gives you an extra buffer. You can eat more and just that's that. It's just better. It's a better use of calories because you have to constantly burning calories to feed that muscle for it to even exist. Um, And of course, you still have to use it so that it doesn't atrophy or get converted back into fat, basically. Um, but you have to um, ooh, uh, I know I'm getting sleepy, but oh, you you have to if you want to build muscle, you need to do that. It's preferable that you do that at the beginning of your workout because that's where you're spending the most amount of your energy, just right up front, fresh out. You're saying, I'm going to spend my energy at toning and training my muscle. And then you do cardio at the end, which by that point you'll already be tired. You'll be like, gosh, do I really want to do cardio now? It's like, well, yeah, you still need to do something to get your heart rate up because that's just good in general for your endurance. It can be tempting to skip it, or just, whatever. I don't do nearly as much cardio as I used to after all that, but like if, for example, you again just wanted to tone and still lose weight, then you would probably do cardio first and then do some light muscle training afterwards just to kind of, you know, keep those muscles there and that's it, you know.